So again, welcome everyone to our second Air Quality Forum. Today we will talk about the importance of air quality data, how to collect it, how to share it, and how it can help to work towards a cleaner environment and a healthier planet. Our first speaker will be Bhupesh Adhikary, and he is the Senior Air Quality Specialist at the Stimulating Action for Clean Air of the International Center for Integrated Mountain Development. So that's ICIMOD or ICIMOD. And ICIMOD is an intergovernmental knowledge and learning center, which is working towards making the Hindu Kush Himalaya region greener, more inclusive, and climate resilient. So the Hindu Kush Himalaya region is stretching over 8 countries in South and Central Asia. So intergovernmental actually really means intergovernmental here. It's a huge project and a huge area. And Bhupesh will talk about ICIMOD's strategy 2030 and monitoring air quality over the Hindu Kush Himalaya region. So, Bhupesh, the stage is yours.
Anyways, before I begin my talk, thank you, Annika, for the introduction, and thanks to AirGradient, Akim and Annika, for inviting me and ICIMOD to present our work to the wide audience. And I see a lot of people from all over the world, so thank you so much for giving us this opportunity. So let me, first begin, and much has been already said on this slide. Okay, so I work in International Center for Integrated Mountain Development. We stay in between science, policy, and practice. But then we're really a intergovernmental knowledge sharing and learning center. So 8 governments in the Hindu Kush Himalaya region, starting from Afghanistan all the way to Myanmar. If I go from west to east, are our members. They're on our board, and they govern and guide some of the work for us. Okay. Recently, last year, we at 40, we redefined our strategy moving ahead, especially trying to align ourselves with some of the sustainable development goals going all the way up to 2030. And this strategy helped us, redefine some of our results framework, our deliverables, and then also try, is defining our strategy and keep us focused on some of the more, important topics facing our part of the world, right? And so our vision is to have a greener, more inclusive, climate resilient Hindu Kush Himalaya. And what do these words mean? Can be seen in some of these bullets. What do we mean by greener? What do we mean by inclusive and climate resilient? And then in the strategy, we have also tried to focus so that, we're more focused organization, because, it's a pretty wide topic if you look at climate resilient development, right? And so there are 4 areas that, we have proposed and has been approved by our board. And one of them is work on air quality. How do we meet the Hindu Kush Himalaya and the downwind regions more cleaner? So this is a commitment from our management and board to really work on air quality. So to implement our strategy, we have defined 6 major action areas. In other words, our programmatic areas, and one of them is dedicated to actions for clean air, where I'm housed in and along with my teammates. So as you can see, based on the long-term impact area as well as the functional unit that has been created to support that, ICIMOD is really trying to deliver results in the area of cleaning up the air. So just, that's a little bit on the strategy, but then just to set context for people who may not be aware of, our part of the world. If you look at this WHO publication, The red colors are where you have really high air quality PM 2.5 concentration. Right? And then this really dark red one is what we call the Indo-Gangetic Plains, which is the real hotspot in terms of PM 2.5. And this is where, stretching again from our member countries all the way Afghanistan to Myanmar is a pollution hotspot. And a lot of people think, yes, okay, IGP is polluted, but so are the mountain valleys, which is shown on the right here. This is a picture from Kathmandu. On a typical day when it's not raining, you can see the pollution haze, across the valley. And sometimes it's so bad that you don't, from one end, you don't really see the mountains right behind you, and then, the snowy peaks behind further. And so it is a problem not just in IGP, but also in mountain valleys and cities. So for ICIMOD, what other things, what are our concerns? Of course, the first one, we're interested in air pollution because of health impact. And then, the economic costs associated with that, And it's not just health and, economics on the very marginalized and poor community as shown in the figure here with people, sitting around the open fire, trying to stay warm. But also we have, real and serious problems with, very complex economies such as the airline industry. A few weeks ago, we had forest fires that were so bad that, the flight in the second, most touristy city in Kathmandu, Pokhara, the flights were canceled for almost a week because of visibility reduction. So it's very real, very, impactful on economy. For ICIMOD, we are also worried about air pollution besides health. We're also we're losing our glaciers, our cryosphere region at a very alarming speed. And, much of it is due to the global warming. But then, our unit is also interested in how much of the black carbon deposition in these white surfaces, contribute to enhanced melting along with dust and, other pollutants. If you look at monsoon over South Asia, that's what drives, GDP in most of our economies. And if you also look at the IPCC AR6 assessment, it's very clearly written that, aerosols are the dominant cause for decline in South Asian monsoons, right? Although we'd like to do more work on this, we haven't, we've done some, but, again, for us, it's really, another important issue why we need to look at weather, air pollution, climate nexus in that. And then, of course, a picture says 1,000 words. On the bottom right is this, hazy picture from MODIS showing the extent of the haze where, sunlight is blocked and then, changes in the climate. And if these are persistent haze, persistent smog and fog across, a lot of the wintertime days, what does that do to your regional climate? We're interested in that as well. So to tackle all these problems, ICIMOD since, 2012, we've had this program in different, forms, whether it's a project or a program or an action area now. We've tried to look at all of these in a very holistic way, So starting from emissions, source characterization, we're trying to do emission measurement factors for, things that are not well known. Like say, often briquetting or pelleting is promoted as a solution for climate and air quality. But then, what are the emissions resulting in creating such briquettes? So as you can see here, we're trying to measure briquette making emissions. How do we measure agriculture burning, things like that. So we're doing all these source emission factors and emission measurements, and of course not just ICIMOD, but along with partners, because you can't really do all of it by yourself. But we do have some in-house expertise in measurement. In terms of understanding atmospheric processes and change, we're setting up state-of-the-art instrument monitoring. Mainly in Nepal and Bhutan, but then we've also started some work with Pakistan and also now getting into Bangladesh, right? And so how can we build capability on reference grade monitoring? All this data and information, how do we bring it together in a very easy to access, readily available, open data, open access regional dashboards where we bring satellite model information, and I'll talk about this slide again. Then in terms of impacts, we are doing monitoring both, like say, for example, and again, this is just an example that I'm presenting. So we've done monitoring on, say, using low-cost sensors, mid-grade sensors, and then, again, correlating it with reference grade. Difference between, air pollution at the kitchen, in the living room, in the bedrooms, and then, right outside. And then again, correlating that with work with health endpoints, working with medical schools. And all of that, ultimately, leading to some sort of policy. And then, the famous, one of our major success stories is in trying to reviving really dirty technology on bricklands, as shown in the picture here. Very dramatic, but then, I mean, in a lot of places, yes, it has resulted in substantial reduction in emissions. And not just the technology side of things, communication is a strong pillar for air pollution reduction. So we've, done public service announcements, telefilms, knowledge products, children books, and all of that, bringing together people from, different countries, different agencies, different themes for knowledge sharing and workshops to, share these best practices from amongst our countries and agencies. And I just put a logo here on the bottom, where we're also involved in state-of-the-art trainings with leading organizations across Europe and North America on say, for example, in this case, modeling and satellite data usage. Right? So again, we're continuing this work. So in terms of and again, I'm just presenting one of our intervention, which is called supporting a regional approach to addressing air pollution, where we still think, there's still data gaps, and not just data gaps, but also decision makers don't have the capability to use high quality data, right? And I'll explain in another slide, so the data on monitoring, data on sources. So the second component here is trying to, again, look at emissions inventory, energy usage patterns and all, and how do we bring these together in a very coherent way, in a very harmonized approach, so that, we speak with, one voice and to have substantial and meaningful reduction in air quality. A lot of times I think now in South Asia, yeah, once the measurement is picking up, yes, there's measurements going, but then unless we really harmonize our work, I feel we are not going to be able to deliver at speed and scale. And I'll explain that. So here, in the past, we supported a lot of these observatories across our member countries. But then if we just look at on the right, these are reference grade instruments that are available, and most of them are in one way or the other showing public, disseminating data publicly. This includes the US Embassy State Department's sites as well. Okay, sure, there's some data gap in parts of our RMC, but then that's also being developed with World Bank and others. But now the challenge is, how do we build more reliability, more credibility? How do we make more use of these data? How do we generate high quality these data coming off these reference grade instruments? In addition to the low cost sensors that are getting more and more publicly available. Again, I talked about the dashboard, and then, okay, we have a dashboard, publicly available, smog, ICIMOD.org. It's not that ICIMOD is only developing this. We are working with our partners So why another dashboard? There's plenty out there. Why are we building another one? Our theory of change is more so that, through these dashboards, can we build capability of our government partners so that they are able to disseminate and use these products in a much more efficient way, and also have the capability to understand what goes in some of these satellite or model derived products, or what does it mean to generate data in real time and disseminate that, and not just the data bit on atmospheric science. In our dashboard, we also are trying to build in the socioeconomic dimensions, like because the data is out there, and so can we add these so that we can merge these, different fields, juxtapose them on top of each other so that we can have a meaningful decision support to whoever is needed. And so you could play with this site. It's open source. The software, the front end, and all that is also, again, open source, which we're happy to share with people if they're interested. Again, there's still some data gaps, so we're working with high-end data providers such as NASA, Surveyor, where here's an example of a product coming from a Korean satellite called GK2 AMI, and then this is a geostationary satellite data. We have data coming in every 20 minutes with a couple hours lag time so that you can do something meaningful with these products that are coming. Again, we're building this and feeding this in our dashboard so that people can easily download the data, download the image, and then do something with it. The middle picture here shows, a dust storm using what's called a RGB, red, green, blue imagery, where you can see the dust being transported just with a couple hours lag time, so that you can say something and not just have satellites that give you data tomorrow or a couple of days later, which doesn't really lead to meaningful actions or meaningful decision support, and it's just limited to analysis in the past, right? And then the figure on the right is, how do we take these real-time AOD and then, using our WRF-GAM and model that are, also running operationally, turning them into some useful, meaningful measurement data, micrograms per meter cube, such as those measured from observatories and low-cost sensors. Again, we are building in the business of, knowledge sharing, learning. And so we do very technical, data training, instrument operation, maintenance, calibration. We do these periodically. We have another one coming. The bottom picture here is training that we co-organized with NASA and just did last month, where we had, people from 5 countries, from 20 different organizations. And then, of course, we always try to bring the policymakers and science, because ICIMOD is really working in the interface of science, policy, practice. So how do we have what the science generated, feeding into policymakers? And like I said, I think our learning has been that, we need to really have a harmonized approach on trying to solve air quality problems. And in our workshops and trainings, we've done some of these, surveys and, talk to people. And a harmonized approach means different things to different people, and, okay, yes, we need harmonization on communication. Yes, we need harmonization on measurement protocols. We need harmonization on modeling or emissions inventory. So there's all these different topics, and, how do we get our community to also come up with a list of topics that are doable in time and scale, so that we really start seeing some meaningful actions on the ground to really experience cleaner air. Right? And this is another slide that I started showing. The United Nations Environment Assembly just passed a resolution in February, where they've, first, it's an important resolution on air pollution. 192 countries signed it. But then, it's also asking UN and their organization to work with initiatives, regional organizations such as us and other initiatives, on, the actions. So, they ask us to work on raising awareness about air pollution issues, enhancing national and, regional air quality monitoring capability, building online tools, interactive maps, again, share knowledge, do capacity building, and all of which we are already doing. And so I think it's great that UN is also promoting some of the work that we are doing, and we would love to again partner with others that are in the audience today, including with this met with AirGradient team just a month ago, and we're happy to how do we work with all interested people to really start showing meaningful actions on the ground and having a clean air. So with that, I would like to end my talk here. Hopefully, I didn't go too long in the allocated time, but happy to take some questions. And thank you once again, AirGradient, Anika, Akim, for giving me and ICIMOD this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your really interesting and cool talk, Bhupesh. I like the holistic approach that ICIMOD is taking, and also your emphasis on harmonization of several data, and also that you always kind of focus on what is the data actually being used for and how can we improve air quality with that in the end. So I really like that. If we don't have any questions so far, like if you have a question, just use the raise your hand function or put it into the chat. But meanwhile, maybe I can ask the first question. Oh, Achim, you can start. Okay.
Yeah, I have. Bhupesh, thank you for the presentation. So I wonder, like the air quality data that you get from the satellites, do they need to be kind of verified or calibrated with like ground-based stations, or are they kind of accurate out of the box?
No, good question. And again, here's another thing that I think low-cost sensors and others would really help calibrate these satellite data. So again, what the satellite measures versus what ground-based instruments measures, are not often the same things, right? So we're measuring columnar, and then we're taking. So, a friend of mine, said a lot of people think satellite as observations, and a friend of mine said it's really an interpretation of observations, right? So it's still an interpretation in that sense. And so, how can we use low-cost sensor data? Again, I mean, all of them have strengths and weaknesses, but then, how do we bring them together to make some meaningful, knowledge product or a, product that then leads to some action on the ground? Because yes, okay, we can keep saying our method is good or this, but at the end, we need to improve air quality at speed and scale, I was talking to a government delegate today, and then he said, tomorrow is already too late, I mean, we are in that situation in our part of the world. And so it's not just let's do monitoring here now. I mean, let's clean up the air now. And we can, we have the tools and, technologies to do it.
Yeah, very much agreed. Hichen, you have a question.
Yeah. Hi, Bhupesh. Thank you so much for your presentation. I'm Hichen from Imperial College. So I got two questions. One is related to, is there any air pollutants that you especially focus on? I know PM definitely one of them, but for this area, do you also consider like ozone pollution would be concerned pollutant in the high altitude area? So that's one. The second one is any ideas on the health study, I mean, applied in this area, both related to local sensor as it can be easily accessed to person, and also from modeling or monitoring. Thank you.
Thanks. Great question. I guess, I mean, the simple answer is yes, we are primarily focused on PM 2.5, right? But then again, I think in our discussion with AirGradient, they have the capability for CO2 and all. Again, the issue for air pollution has been that it's always been traditionally regarded as a local problem to be solved by local governments. With satellites and now, with low-cost sensors and all, we know that it's not just local problem. It is often a regional problem, and at times, pollution from South Asia is going across the globe, and so it is in a way global. So the developed world and all also need to look at it as a developmental problem. If you think about SDG, there's no significant separate SDG on air pollution, right? Because the traditional thinking, again, I always say, air quality scientists missed out on that, And so for us, PM 2.5 is the main problem right now, but with increasing fires, ozone also during episodes, we do have high ozone. And then, while, we have this debate on, climate change, there is a strong link between air quality and climate change. And so can we start looking at, mitigation action for climate also yields great benefits to air quality. And so can we already start linking through low-cost sensors and all, that actions on climate mitigation are also going to help air quality, and try to convince the developing nations that have major air quality problems that they are going to benefit by mitigation, and not just say, it's a global climate problem, because air pollution problem is a local problem that, is impacting us every day, right? And so I think, how do we combine the two and really have actions on the ground? And, most of the discussion has been, okay, climate as a problem that, global, north or developed countries created, so they need to, and it's mostly been adaptation focused on developing countries. But then, as I showed you, the developing countries usually have the air pollution problem. And a lot of time, these are primitive technology, combustion. How do we bring the conversation together so it's win-win for both? Everybody's acting on, climate as well as air quality.
Yes, I agree that this is always an issue you should look at together. I see that there are a few more questions in the chat, but I would like to have maybe first our second talk from Colleen to make sure that she has enough time. And if we still have enough time in the end of our session, then I'm happy to come back to these questions if you're okay with this. So our next speaker will be Colleen Rosales from OpenAQ. There she is the director of the strategic partnerships. And OpenAQ is a non-profit organization providing access to global air quality data with the mission to solve air inequality. All right, Colleen, stage is yours. We're looking forward to your...
Thanks so much, Annika. And thank you so much to AirGradient and Akim for the invitation. And thank you, Bhupesh, for also setting this stage in terms of, having open source platforms and all of the conversation and, actions to better our air quality. So yeah, OpenAQ is a nonprofit and also a platform, and I will introduce OpenAQ in a little bit. But yeah, so I'm Colleen Rosales. I'm based in the US, and we serve worldwide, and we aggregate air quality data worldwide. And a lot of the themes here will be kind of similar, and you'll hear the same keywords. So this is awesome. So say, for example, I'll talk a lot also about harmonization and our open source platform. So I mentioned OpenAQ is a nonprofit. We are a nonprofit based in the US. We're a small but mighty team of 3. So we have Chris, our executive director, Russ, our director of technology, and yours truly as the strategic partnerships director. We were founded in 2015 by Krista Hazenkopf, an atmospheric chemist, and Joe Flasher, a software engineer, and together they harmonized and aggregated reference monitors in one platform. And then we started aggregating low-cost sensors or air sensors later on in 2021. And if you'd like to read more about that story, the short link is here. So as I mentioned, you'll hear the same keywords from me. So so we harmonize data from many different disparate sources, and we are in this very niche role of making sure that all of these sources are harmonized and standardized, so that users like yourself don't have to wrangle the data yourselves, and you can put your focus on things like research and analysis and advocacy. So the platform is you can access it by going to openaq.org or explore.openaq.org. So we aggregate air quality data both from reference monitors and air sensors. We focus on criteria pollutants as listed in here. And mostly users look at PM 2.5 and NOx data, but there are also other criteria pollutants on there. And then we aggregate all of these and present them in different types of data products like the API, the archive, which is more for bulk or historical downloads, and then Explorer, which is more interactive and visual. We also develop a lot of tools that allow for programmatic access, such as the command line interface and a Python wrapper, since for sure, a lot of you are writing in Python. And I'll do a little bit of walkthrough of the Explorer in a bit here. But if you are interested in the API, which is our main data product, you can access that using these links. And there's also recipes and tutorials on there. So OpenAQ, we serve many different, audiences. In the past, it's been primarily a lot of scientists and researchers and folks who, do a lot of rigorous scientific stuff. And so now we serve to also bridge the gap in terms of going from data to information by developing a lot of more tools that are more intuitive. And so I'll mention some of the use cases in here, but all of us do have the um, uh, goal of improving air quality. So our hope is that, again, we aggregate all of the air quality data so that you don't have to do the wrangling of the data yourselves, and you can just, access the data for any purpose that you have and do your work with the data. And so just some examples here of use cases for OpenAQ. So some of the fun educational awareness tools that are out there that have used the OpenAQ API is the Smoky Air Pollution Bot, which is a chat bot. You talk to it via WhatsApp or Telegram, I think. And so you ask what's the air quality outside, and it will give you the concentration and tell you, what should you do to avoid if, say, for example, the levels are outside are hazardous. Another app that serves to, be an educational tool is Shoot I Smoke, in which the equivalent, smoke, equivalent cigarette smoke that corresponds to the concentration of PM 2.5 in your area. So even if you don't smoke, there's that equivalent number of cigarette smoke. So those are just two educational and awareness apps. And then we also provide support to more government level organization. So one on the left is Cleaner Catalyst, which is a 5-year project of the USAID, and is led by World Resources Institute and Environmental Defense Fund. And um, the it's a 5-year project in which they will set up reference monitors and do capacity building and a whole big program on air quality in these 3 different cities, and our role here is for data management and putting the data in a public platform for these 3 cities. Another use case here is Bloomberg Green. They do have this PM 2.5 tracker where you're able to see the level of pollution with respect to the number of population and which cities or locations in the world are are experiencing the most pollution based on those information. So I think this is a live tracker, so you're able to visit it and see real time data on there. Another use case that is, government putting their data open, and we really do appreciate, governments being open with their air quality data, is the government of Peru, where they just put up 34 new reference monitors. The data for these new reference monitors for PM10 and PM 2.5, the data for those are available online on OpenAQ. And so, they don't have to field the requests. They can just tell those that want to get the data to go to OpenAQ and download the data from OpenAQ. So their manpower doesn't have to, field all these requests, and we can serve as, support for that. So there's just some of the use cases and support that we can provide. So with the advent of machine learning nowadays, and the wealth of data that we have in general for air quality, there's really so much that we can do. So some examples of use cases that do use machine learning are listed in here. So one is AQAI. They are a UNICEF venture fund backed organization, and they use machine learning to predict the air quality levels in areas where there is little to no air quality monitoring. Another example is predicting what we breathe, which is a NASA-funded project for the city of LA. So our role here was as data providers for the inputs into the predictive model. And so that also includes satellite data, and they were able to do a predictive model for the city of LA. And then the continuation of that is, addition of socioeconomic data, etc., to provide better predictions up to 10 days in the future for the residents of city of LA. So those two projects are have their QR code and their links on there if you're interested to learn more. So another project that we do, or a report that we put out, is the Open Air Quality Data Global Landscape. So this is a a survey of the air quality monitoring of governments worldwide. So we survey the countries worldwide and look at which countries are monitoring air quality, and which countries do monitor and share their data. So we do have criteria of fully open data in which it's going to be maximally useful. So those criteria are listed in here. We found that less than a quarter of countries meet the 4 key criteria for open data. So even if there's 61% of the countries that do monitor air quality data, there's still some percent of that don't share, and those that do share, only a little bit do actually fulfill all the key criteria for open data. So if you're interested to learn more about that, the report is online, and also the worksheet that we have, which lists each country and which criteria that they fulfilled are listed on there. We're also working on the next version of this report. So I do want to take some time to do a little bit of a walkthrough of the OpenAQ Explorer. And this, like I mentioned, we do the tedious work, the nitty-gritty work of aggregating and harmonizing all of the data so that it's ready in a format that you're able to use for your research or for your advocacy. So, we're here in the data engineering management kind of tier of this pyramid. But we continuously develop tools so that the data can also be analyzed or characterized and visualized. And so I want to do a walkthrough here of the Explorer. And again, you can access this and by going to explore.openaq.org, or if you just search OpenAQ and you get to that website, you click on explore the data. This allows you to view all of the points that are on there, or all of the locations in the map that are on there, and then you can select which pollutant you're interested in, which type of reference monitor or air sensor you are interested in, and to see also historical data on there. You can also see data providers like AirGradient. And so if you choose to just show points from AirGradient, or if you want to compare AirGradient and a reference monitor that is surrounding it, you're also able to do that. So it's really up to what is your goal or your objective in looking at these air quality data. So just one example here, say for example, I search for, locations that in Thailand. So this one location here is an air gradient sensor. You're seeing what it can measure when it last reported. And these are just, quick spark plots just to see, okay, was there any recent measurement from that location? And then these are just some example plots of what you can see on the Explorer webpage. Once you click on, say that point, you go to a detail page that can show you all of these time series, and also, diurnal. So these are accessible without you even having to plot these data yourself. So you can, screen grab them and put it in a report or something like that. So just a little bit of, how this detail page looks. So this also allows you to download the data as a CSV. So this is like the whole detail page. You can see this different panels in here. And then you can download the data as a CSV. So if you'd like to open that with Excel or Google Sheets or any, spreadsheet viewer, or if you want to open that with any programming language, that's available there. So the Explorer, I'm happy to give a training on this for your organization or for your team or for your research group. Just let me know. We also offer these trainings, as well as, a more in-depth training if you'd like about the API or the command line interface. So we do want you to fully utilize the tools that we put out there. So yeah. So this is another feature of the Explorer that I wanted to, explore with you all today, the lists. So this one, you can also view this walkthrough using the link up here, and I'm also happy to give, a separate training for that. But this is a very new feature that we released this year, where you're able to build a list of locations that you're interested in. So it's like in your browser, you have your favorites or your bookmarks. It's the same concept. You do need an account in the Explorer or in OpenAQ to access these lists, but an account is free. You only need your email address and name. And so with this list, you're able to, again, like I mentioned, put locations of concern or of, interest for you. Say, for example, you're a manager of a fleet of both air sensors and reference monitors, and you do want to see them in one dashboard. You don't have to go to the dashboard of each fleet. You can all see them in one place here, and you can download the data from all of these locations right away. And so there we go. Okay. So apart from, all the tools that we develop and the API and all of that, we also have the community ambassador program, in which we train 10 individuals from low and middle income countries all over the world. And it's a 10-month intensive training, holistic training that, goes from data science and open data and how to use tools in OpenAQ up to, social and awareness campaigns and, all of this that these individuals could use for their community work or their advocacy work. So these individuals are not air quality researchers or are not involved in scientific research in their daily lives, but are very passionate about air quality advocacy and air quality action in their own communities. So that's the 2024 cohort. They're on their, I think, second month now. And this is the 2023 cohort that just graduated in March. So with that, I'd like to leave you with this slide. So if you are interested in either using the data in OpenAQ or putting your data on OpenAQ, let me know. We can chat through it. And if there are any reference monitors or air sensors within your location that is not yet available in OpenAQ, but they are open. They share the same open ethos. Do let us know, and we'll be happy to coordinate with you and maybe have that data on OpenAQ. So yeah, I also just would like to flag here. On May 30th, there is AWS Summit Bangkok, where one of our ambassador alumni, Tanasak, will be there, and we'll be talking about OpenAQ. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Colleen. That was a really cool presentation, very informative. Thank you very much. And actually already matching to your last slide, how can you get involved? We have the first question in the chat, and that is, have you any plan to incorporate sensor.community air quality data into the OpenAQ map?
Thank you so much for that question. Right now, our priorities are low and middle income countries. So if you go to explore.openaq.org, you'll see that much of the points are in the global north. And so we really want to focus on the points in the global south, increase a lot of the data on there. So my knowledge is that sensor community is mostly in Europe, if I'm not mistaken. So there are already, as compared to the other regions of the world that we have on OpenAQ, there's a lot more data on, Europe and in the areas of sensor dot community. So the answer for now is no.
Okay, thank you. Harry, I hope this answers your question. If not, just comment on that. And yeah, we're still open for more questions. I have I'm quite interested in one thing. So I like how you're supporting governments and sharing data, and you're taking quite a lot of load of them. So in the receiving or the distributing data world, you're helping them a lot. How is it about processing the data and coming up with policies? Have you got any feedback and in both ways, do they come back and ask you what should we do about it, or are there also governments who don't like that you publish data? Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, thanks so much, Annika. And I think this also relates to our global landscape report, where we did the survey of all of these countries that do share their data and not share their data, and we mentioned there some instances or cases as well where the government is not willing to share their data, and what may be the reasons for that. So yes, definitely there are countries that are on the national level are not very open. But that doesn't stop some of the cities within that nation to still share their data. So we still welcome all of these anyone that shares the open data ethos. As for going back to us and looking at what are the policy effects and whatnot, I think for us, being primarily a data organization, we are a little bit far from the action, although we do take these steps and have tools and whatnot, but there is still a lot of things to be done in between, in which case sometimes it is actually kind of hard to get that message across that as a platform, we do try to bridge this gap, but there are still many actors in between that have to do the research and do the policy recommendations and whatnot. And so, but we do every now and then we would hear stories or have or research this ourselves in terms of what have been the impacts of the data being open. But I think that's a long-term goal as well, to be able to see the effects and the impact of open data. But yeah, we're constantly open to hearing these stories as well as looking for these stories of direct impacts of having the air quality data open.
Yes, for sure. I mean, for sure, that's a long-term thing, but nice to monitor or interesting to monitor, of course. Tom, I'm sorry that I missed your question before, but I'll just gonna read it out now. So, are OpenAQ undertaking any policy work around freedom of air quality information, noting that people like Purple Air have been lost from the platform because they want to charge for API access, which isn't in the public interest?
Yeah, thank you so much for that question, Tom. So we engage in open in forums and in conversations that do tackle open air quality data and open data in general. So that may be hosted by conferences or hosted by governments. So we've participated in many of these conversations, and we continue to advocate for open data and yeah, just in general openness in the air quality ecosystem. So yeah.
Yes. So then we have actually just a lot of supporting messages, which are, everyone is a big fan of OpenAQ as much as of ICIMOD. I mean, both have the same vision. There's one question saying like, how can we help to make governments share the data with OpenAQ or our government? Like, yeah. Do you have advice on that?
Yeah, so I think a lot of that we do need people on the ground. The vision or the perspective of a US organization kind of just going to a government, it sometimes feels like in a sense helicoptery. So we do encourage people on the ground and people in that country to approach us so that we don't just come in like randomly in a sense, because that perspective is not good also in terms of the government, right? Like they might think like, who is this organization just wanting our data for whatever purpose, even though we try to explain all of the benefits and that it's not, we're a nonprofit organization, we're not in here for making money off of the data, but there's still that the collaboration within the country. And so, if say, for example, in your country or in your city, that the government has air quality data and could benefit from having their data on a platform like OpenAQ, so that like the example that I mentioned with Peru, we can field the requests so that they don't have to, and they can just point to, okay, this is this platform where you can freely download the data, and we know that this is trusted data because this is our reference monitor data. So yeah, I'm open to these conversations, and yeah, open to collaboration on that end.
Wonderful. All right, so as I promised, if you don't mind having a few more minutes, we have this one question which went still to Bhupesh, if you're okay, if it's not too late for you. Bhupesh, I know Nepal is quite late.
No problem. Reference grid, I guess, I mean, again, is a good question, but difficult to answer in that low-cost sensor is probably a couple $100. Reference grid instrument would cost anywhere from, 10,000 upwards, again, depends on the pollutant that you're trying to measure and the accuracy and precision that you're trying to measure, right? So it could go, again, we have instruments anywhere from, starting from 10,000 all the way to 100,000 for one particular pollutant, right? So Again, depends on the make, depends on the brand. So again, it's very expensive compared to a low-cost sensor, right? Reference grade. How do you convert AOD to PM 2.5? Again, as I mentioned, these are AOD is a columnar measurement of aerosol optical depth by particles. So and it's unitless, but then PM 2.5 we're trying to take it into a concentration unit, micrograms per meter cube. So there you have to use a model or observation data to constrain what you think is a columnar measurement and how much of that is. So in short, you take observations that have both concentration as well as point AOD measurement, and then there are some well-established tools to convert it into PM 2.5 concentration and vice versa. So there's lots of papers out there. Different people have used different techniques, but again, it's an interpretation of what's observed. So there are places for errors, there are assumptions, so you have to take it with a pinch of salt on that. But it's still useful because it is constrained by some sort of observational data, and so it definitely is better than purely free-flowing model estimates.
Absolutely, I agree. All right, I want to thank our two speakers again. If you're following the chat, you can see that everyone was very happy about the two presentations, and so was I and our team. So thank you very much for your contributions. We're planning to disseminate the recording or to publish it later on, and if the speakers agree, maybe they can also send us the presentations and we can publish it along with it. And yeah, then I wish everyone a nice day, afternoon or evening, depending on where you are. And yeah, have a good day,
everyone.
Thank you.
Again, thank you for the invitation. Thank you.
Thank you, Colleen and Bhupesh. Thank you.
Bye-bye.